Welcome back, viewers. Tensions in the Strait of Hormuz are not limited but widespread. According to Iranian media reports, two Indian flag vessels were fired upon by the Iranian Navy today. The two ships, including an Indian flag super tanker carrying 2 million barrels worth of Iraqi oil, were forced to turn back. Following the incident, India has summoned the Iranian ambassador, with the Ministry of External Affairs likely to issue a statement soon. So that's the information coming in as far as the firing upon Indian vessels. And this is, of course, the epicenter of the standoff in Hormuz. On one side, you have seen the US has announced that even though Iran said they would open the Strait of Hormuz, US said they would not allow Iranian ships to navigate until the ceasefire is 100% done and there's a peace deal in place. Iran then also, of course, did a 180-degree U-turn and said that the strait is closed as far as they are concerned. And following that, we're seeing this incident where there was firing upon an Indian ship, Indian flag ship there in the Strait of Hormuz. And now, in fact, there's a statement coming in from Donald Trump. He said Iran wanted to close the strait again, as they have been doing for years. They can't blackmail us. We will be talking about this later with Iran. We have very good conversations going on. It's working out very well. So the latest statement coming in there from Donald Trump on the situation in the Strait of Hormuz. All right, let's take this across to our guest now. With us is Ashok Sajanar, former diplomat. We have Peter Kuznick, author and professor of history and director of the Nuclear Studies Institute at American University. Milad Rabbani is former Iranian diplomat, joining us as well. What do we make of this statement there, Ashok Sajanar? First, of course, the firing upon the Indian ship. Amidst all of this uncertainty, is it correct for any side to be actually opening fire, given the fact that we were told yesterday that it's opened up? In the morning, the US, of course, then put out its own statement about not allowing Iranian ships, and Iran did a 180-degree turn. And now we're seeing firing taking place on Indian flag tankers. What really is going on?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have to, as you said, the Iranian ambassador has been summoned, and he will be told about our very serious displeasure at what has happened. I think this is totally irresponsible, totally unacceptable. We have always maintained that all international waters should be open, should be free for navigation. This has been our principled stand, and this is what we have been telling Iran and all the other countries. Now, our ships have been waiting there, and they started going through the Strait of Hormuz, Madhav, when Iran announced yesterday. The foreign minister of Iran announced yesterday that the Strait of Hormuz is open. Iran, even if it has to sort of, block it again, it has to reverse the decision and go back 180 degrees. It cannot do it whimsically, at a moment's notice. That first we say it is open, there are ships that are coming. I understand that about 8 ships went through the Strait of Hormuz as soon as the announcement was made. And Indian ships were also going based on the announcement by Iran that the Strait of Hormuz is open. Now, if Iran decides, because of its problems with the United States, that it is, going to close the strait, it has to give time to those ships which are transiting through this, because these are all friendly countries, whether it is India, which is carrying 2 million barrels of oil, or it is Iraqi oil. That also is, there is no problem as far as that is concerned. You have your problem with the United States. Fight it out with the United States. Why are you hitting out indiscriminately in this manner at carriers, vessels of friendly countries, and creating problems for yourself, increased problems for yourself?
Let me take this question, in fact, to Milad, who's also joining us on the show. Milad, the question that many would have is, amidst a lot of the uncertainty, and I can understand the tensions between the United States and Iran are at a high. You fought a war for about the last 40, 50 days. The point is, at a situation like this, this kind of firing is not what one expects, and no surprises there that now the Iranian ambassador has been summoned by India's Ministry of External Affairs. Milad.
Historically, every time and all the time there was good relations between Iran and India, and they are two brother nations. Today, there is an important issue in Iran, and we don't have a centralized decision-making center. In Iran now, there is a power, there is a war among power, and at least there is a war and a conflict between two groups, and they send contradiction messages and their instances on these current political issues, and even this war is different. One group is insisting on pushing more and escalation of the war, and the other group is the group that they are compatible and they want to make a deal with US, and they try because they understand the regime is in a very seriously dangerous situation. So no, it is not something strange when we see they attack to an Indian ship, or some countries that cannot pose a threat. They will not enter in this war actually. But I believe the best thing for India, but because here it is not only Iran, it's the United States that the United States can make Hormuz Strait to blackmail and put pressure on China and India. So I believe the best thing for India is to go for another resources and another countries. It will be in India interest.
Okay. Before I come across to you, Ashok Sajjanhar, I'd like you to answer the question, but let me get in a quick word from Peter as well. Peter, the question is this, that, while US, while Iran, are going back and forth at a negotiating table, that surely can't mean that harm comes upon other countries and their assets, including, ships such as these, which are carrying billions of barrels worth of oil out of the Gulf. And this is very, very crucial. It's a lifeline, as we know, for several countries in the neighborhood, including of India. So this is the last thing that one would expect would happen at a time like this.
Well, the Iranians made clear that if the U.S. continued its blockade, then they were going to close the Strait of Hormuz. So Trump thought he could bully them into submission. But the Iranians hold more cards than Trump does. The Iranians have the chokehold over the strait. The Iranians have military capabilities that can threaten the entire region. So Trump can blow things up, and he's threatened to do that. You have to remember that Trump said he was going to keep the blockade in place, and he threatened Iran. Well, Iran is not in a position right now to be threatened by the United States. And so they acted in this way. It might not have been wise. And my guess is that since they have friendly feelings toward India, they are going to give permission to Indian ships to go through the Strait of Hormuz. That would be the smart thing, because they were doing that selectively beforehand. And then they said they were going to open it, and then they said they were going to close it. So, as Mr. Rabbani has said, there are different groups in Iran with different interests, but overall, the Iranians are united against the U.S. threats, U.S. bullying, U.S. pressure, and Donald Trump's lies. And they were very offended when Donald Trump said that they had agreed to the U.S. terms. That was never true. So you can't really believe anything that Trump says in this situation.
Right, and there's a big update coming in. This is what Iran's Supreme National Security Council is saying on the Strait of Hormuz. They say that Iran will maintain control and monitoring of the strait until the war fully ends. Vessels must provide full information and receive clearance according to Iran's regulations. Passage will be subject to security, safety and environmental protection requirements and costs. Any disruption or blockade attempts will be treated as a violation of the ceasefire. Iran will prevent even limited reopening if the enemy continues hostile maritime action. So Iran making the terms very clear. And as Peter Kuznick just said, Ashok Sajjanhar, Iran reasserting its control over the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, Iran, for the time being has control over the Strait of Hormuz. And I think the whole world is suffering as a result of that. The whole world needs to sort of, come together and whichever way it is, resolve the issue between the United States and Iran. I'm not taking a position on who is right, who is wrong, whether the blockade is right or wrong. But I think these, as far as the communication, the navigation, that has to be made free through the Strait of Hormuz. I wanted to respond to what Mr. Rabbani said, that India should diversify. I don't think we need advice or guidance from anyone to diversify. India is today importing oil from 41 countries. But still, there are, we have our ships waiting there. We have our ships since before the Strait of Hormuz was blocked. About 16 of our ships are waiting there. And we went, our ships were going out on the assurance that was given by the Iranian foreign minister that the Strait of Hormuz is open. Now, Iran cannot really go, even if it has to go back upon. I don't deny it. Okay, it wants to put in all this oversight, all this other conditions and, wants to monitor what is happening. Yeah. Fine, let it do it, if it is as a result of the war. But it can't start shooting at ships which are transiting on the assurance that was given by the Iranian foreign
and those
minister.
Are pictures coming in of Dr. Mohammad Fatali, who's the ambassador of Iran to India. He's just left from the Ministry of External Affairs, we are told. And those are the pictures of the Iranian ambassador to India, who's just leaving the Ministry of External Affairs here in India. So, the question is very simple, and I want to bring in fact, Milad on that. Milad, you heard what Mr. Ashok Sajanar had to say. And, this is going to lead to unnecessary tension if these kind of incidents are to take place. Because Iran, after the first few incidents, we had seen both Iran and India had very clearly made their positions very clear. But if it comes to damage to Indian vessels or any other assets in the Middle East, it's sure to cause, unnecessary friction between the two countries. Milad.
I believe with all the craziness that the Iranian regime has, they will not engage themselves in a deep conflict with India, as I told you, and also with Pakistan and with China, because they are considered allies or friend countries for Iran. So it's common. Sometimes media focus and magnify one aspect, and they deliberately deny the other aspects. Today I had a news that Iran sent almost 2 million, they let 2 million barrel of the oil pass for India, and they will send it. They will send again. You will see, because Iran don't want to make conflicts with India. But we should take into the consideration that India, even China or other countries out of region, they are not, will not, and they should not be in the conflict inside the Persian Gulf. It's
all
not
right.
We'll
have to leave it there, Milad. I'm sorry, we're totally out of time. I'd like to thank you, Peter Kuznick, as well as Ashok Sajanar for joining us this evening. But all eyes on the Prime Minister's address in about half an hour from now. We're going to continue to build up to that. What are the expectations from that particular statement of Prime Minister Modi? Join us on the other side of this break for more.